Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast, and I am joined by some absolute titans of the Manchester United fan base. We've got Mr. Ronaldo Brown. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. We were just playing a little game now, weren't we, about what footballer you look like, or what footballer we look like. And who did you say you look like?
Now everyone says Snoop Dogg, and
that's
I've
not a
never
footballer.
seen that.
I haven't seen him play football.
That's no, you do. No. Let's not just ignore that.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg is not a footballer.
He might have played
Right.
Sunday League.
He did that thing with Beckham, didn't he? Do you remember that?
He played some.
Has he played
That was
Soccer Aid?
cringe.
Soccer Aid?
Probably been involved in something.
Probably.
football,
Right,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, but
fine.
we'll give it to
Right,
Who do I look like?
yeah. Who do you say you look like?
I look Victor Moses,
Victor Moses, yeah, can see that.
Ricardo Gardner.
Oh, that's a good one. Ricardo,
Maybe.
I remember. Ronaldo, your namesake.
Hugo-
No, it's not your namesake.
Hugo Rodriguez.
Cristiano Ronaldo. Didn't he give a...
He literally.
Mate, you're just naming like players who've got a similar hairstyle.
You
to
couldn't look
you look
less like
nothing
Hugo
like Hugo
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. And I can't even say his name. Also, Joe Smith.
Hello.
What footballer do you look like? I think you look like a Brian Kilcline.
Maybe. Just a quick hair and beard glance. Socrates.
You look like.
The rest of the face is nothing.
Yeah,
I'd say Jonathan Woodgate.
Jonathan Woodgate. Yeah.
You look like Joe Allen.
Latter day Woodgate.
Cavani.
Joe Allen.
Joe Allen. Yeah.
Just a
definitely.
hair. Just a hair.
I love how happy you are at that suggestion.
Who's yours, Joe?
You're happy, Ronny.
Who's yours?
I used to get Dion Dublin when I was little, when I
Yeah.
started going bald.
Yeah.
Bobby Zamora.
Bobby Zamora, wow,
People used
really?
to say Lee Grant as well for you.
Lee Grant, yeah, I used to get Lee Grant.
Robert
I used to get all
Earnshaw.
that. Robert Earnshaw. That's a bit grim, that one, son. That's just ball brown people. Also, I think it's actually why this conversation started. We've got Finn with us, Academy Scoop.
Yep.
Good to see you with us, because people have said that you look like Scott McTominay.
Everyone says
a
it.
young Scott McTominay, obviously.
I don't really see it personally, but everyone always comments it in the comment section on Academy Review. So
Yeah.
you know, just got to accept it. At this
Yeah,
point.
embrace it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of worse things you could be compared to.
Yeah.
People are in the
worse.
comments already. Troy Liam Hiles, you're going to get bad. He says Jay looks like Olbertan. Jesus wept. Joey's Andy Carroll says Kamikaze TKA.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
too far.
Also, what else
Give
have
you
we
that.
got? Scott McTominay's back, says Ben Hotbot 13.
Yeah.
Speaking of Scott McTominay, Jay, what
Go
are we
on.
talking about today?
We're going to be talking about players that have left Manchester United and whether they've left too soon, whether we've got a poor strategy. Because, listen, it's not just about McTominay, but people have looked at McTominay and said, should we let him go? People have looked at Angel Gomes for England and saying, was there not a player there we could have kept hold of? People have looked at not necessarily whether we were right to let Paul Pogba go, but just how he handled that particular transfer. It wasn't exactly one that was very logical. Even, and I dare say I may have started these rumours myself or these arguments myself, Danny Welbeck's been banging him in for Brighton this season.
Alvaro Fernandez has been
Why
another
not?
one recently.
Alvaro Fernandez, yeah, he's
Especially
another
with
one.
United's left back problem. So
We
we'll
had
go
Diamond
through.
News this morning, so yeah, you're right.
We'll go through what United have been doing, why they've been doing it, and has it worked, basically. Has it been a good policy that we've had? Because we've let a lot of people go for, I mean, the players you mentioned there, other than Scott McTominay, very little money coming in for those players. And have we replaced them with better players? And should they still be at United? So we'll go through a bit of that as well.
What's the one player that when he left it broke your heart? Jesus Christ, it's not a difficult question.
It is.
Finn, do you want to help me out, bro?
I've got an Academy one.
Go on.
Isaac Cantona for me.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I saw
That was
that.
only this summer,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or was it
Really?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. Especially since he's not getting minutes now. Just breaks my
Devastating.
heart because he could
Yeah.
have been so much more. But
Do you know what? Don't give up, he might come back.
Might be a
There's
revival.
always time.
Look
yeah.
at Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
Ronaldo, the first time. 2009 Ronaldo's the one where it was like, he was our best player and when we had to sell him. That's never happened. Has it happened before or since? When's the last time we were basically forced into selling our best player?
Good point,
At
that.
that peak.
Forced.
Has that ever happened?
No,
Yeah.
because even Beckham felt like Fergie just had enough of him.
Yeah. I say forced because no one at Man United wanted him to leave. He wanted to go, and we
Yeah.
kind of went, all right, you've done enough for us. We'll
Was
let you go.
Was he
for
not maybe Di Maria? But like,
yeah, but he
Was he
think
not
he was-
talked into was Ronaldo not talked into staying that extra
Yeah, he
season?
was.
Yeah, I
Wasn't
think
he, as well?
Fergie
Yeah.
sold him on let's defend the Champions League.
Yeah.
Let's be the first team
Yeah.
to ever the Champions League trophy, not the European Cup. Defend that and we'll go again, kind of thing. And I think he thought, all right, I'll give you one more year.
Yeah.
He's obviously very unhappy about it.
But he's the one
that
for me
makes
where
sense.
it was just like shit.
The way it went down as well, because it lasted it was basically like a year of arguing, wasn't it? A year of silly comments in the papers and set black and everyone getting involved. It was just horrible, wasn't it? Of this just sort of nonsense that went on because you knew you wanted to leave. So one extreme to the other. Go on,
Rooney.
Rooney. when he went to Everton, back to Everton?
Yeah, because for me, he's probably up there in my top 2 as my favourite ever United player.
He scored 11 goals that season when he went back to Everton in the Premier League.
Did he get like 8, 9 assists as well?
Yeah, that's not bad, that is it?
No.
For a player that
He got
everyone's
double-digit goals and assists just all the time.
Yeah, just every season.
Which is that's the benchmark for a good attacking creative player. If you can get double-digit goals and assists, you're better than most other people in your position. And even crap Rooney was doing it.
I know.
And we were like, he's way past it, he's terrible. He's like, well,
it's
only
15 goals and 10 assists or whatever. It's not too shabby, is it?
It's not.
Yeah, no, all good. Good points, good comments. Let us know. Get involved in the chat and let us know. Mike Fergus says Marvell Morrison. What a wasted talent. Mikey Wyatt says Beckham. Miles says Johnny Evans to Leicester.
Ruud van Nistelrooy hurt my feelings
I think
as
he
well.
went to.
How old was he when he left?
That was sad. He was only about 28.
Yeah.
Went to Real Madrid, didn't he? So he still had a few years left.
But
in
again,
the
it was
tank.
another falling out of Fergie on it. Keane must have been one that killed you a bit, Jay, surely.
Keane, worse for bizarrely, because of how young was Ince. Ince hurt me. Ince was one, I think, where technically we wanted to keep him, but we didn't want to keep him until the 11th hour. Because if you listen to...
This is where we have no clue, Finn.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Before our time, isn't it?
This is before our time.
They were born after Paul Ince left Man United.
Well, that's no excuse. You should have been there.
I was 6 when Ronaldo left.
Well, yeah. Oh my God.
You made me feel...
You were 6 when he left.
Well, what
The
was
second time.
Jesus Christ, I was 23 when he arrived.
He's 9 now.
No, Ronaldo left. Was it 2009, innit?
Yeah.
2009.
I was 4.
You were 4.
Yeah.
2005 is when you were born.
Yeah.
Damn, you're young, man.
Should we look at some people who've left in the last few years then?
Yeah,
because United
let's get
seems
into
to have
that.
a policy of a combination of buyback clauses and sell-on fees and sometimes both. So let's start with, I think a good place to start is Alvaro Fernandez, because he's one that has been a big talking point this season. We let him go in the summer for 8 million, how much did we let him go for? Sorry, around 6 million euros. He's basically starting every week for Benfica.
Yeah.
He's a left-back, of course, who never really got a chance in the first team. Did he even get an appearance for United? Maybe one?
Outside of pre-season, I don't think
I think
so.
got some little ticklers in pre-season, but even then wasn't
tackle.
particularly fancied. He's since, like I said, started every game pretty much for Benfica. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. Was brilliant in that game where they beat Atletico Madrid 4-0 the other week, and that's basically what's kind of caused this kind of outcry. And also, in the meantime, Tyrone Malacia hasn't played a game in almost 18 months now. Luke Shaw has played, I think, no games for Man United in 7 months now, since February.
Very strange.
8 months. We've got no left backs. Dallo and Mazraoui have been starting at either fullback when they're both right backs all season. And we've got this guy we've just let leave who's starting for one of the best teams in Portugal, the sort of team you tend to buy players from who look a bit like Fernandez in terms of what they're doing on the pitch. And yet we've just let him go for essentially pence. Like 6 million euros.
Mike Pence.
What's that? Mike Pence in return. Failed assistant prime minister.
That's the weirdest description of vice president I've ever heard in my life. Failed assistant prime minister. Yes.
AKA.
Yeah, AKA the vice president.
So, Fernandez, Ronaldo, what do you think?
Because I was actually going to ask Finn a question with him being an academy guy.
Yeah,
and
nice.
Alvaro Fernandez, you might have probably watched him a lot more than we have. Do you think he was probably a mistake for us to sell him?
At the time when he was going to leave, I said, I don't mind. Because I'm not sure he was ready to contribute for us at the time, or at least come in as a kind of starting left back. And I think in a way, some people have looked at the move as a loan, basically, because we do have that buyback. So I understand the frustration, because obviously now we're left in a situation where we have no available left backs. We're putting Johnny Evans in there, which is just not ideal. And that situation could have been predicted based on the injury history at United currently. So I definitely understand the frustration, but I do think there is a positive spin to it, in that worst case scenario, we have a good buyback. We've allowed Benfica to essentially develop him for us. And he's getting that experience in the Champions League. So, kind of.
Do you also think it was a situation where you probably believed Harry Amas had a higher ceiling than him anyway?
Well, I think there's that belief within the club that maybe Harry Amas has a higher potential, a higher ceiling. And so some people have suggested that that's kind of part of the decision-making process with that decision to let him go. Obviously, if you're not going to give Harry Amas those minutes now, then it begs the question as to whether we should have got rid of Fernandez, because we are left with no starting left back now.
Yeah, because another thing, because you asked me about Fernandez, is I haven't watched him loads, I didn't watch in the academy, but people are talking about how well he's doing at Benfica, which is obviously a big club. It's in a Portuguese league though, which is considerably weaker to the Premier League, so people need to factor that in as well. I know Champions League football is high quality, but I'm sure Fernandez did have a loan spell. Was it for Preston? Did he have?
He was their young player of the season.
And he was their young player of the season. He did really well there. So I think doing that well in the Championships, even more of a feather in the cap than how he's doing at Benfica. But was he more of a? I think he was played as a wing back.
He was played quite high, but I mean, he's shown now that he can play in a back four, and he's strong defensively. I think one of his biggest strengths is his kind of physical robustness. He must be 6 foot or 6'1", and he's a really powerful runner. So he can keep up with the pace of men's football. I think after that loan at Preston, we could have given him just a little run out just to see.
It wouldn't be as well, like you said, because the reports are that United can get him back for £16 million, I think, somewhere in that region. And if anyone else were to buy him, it'd be around 40. Yeah. So we're getting, basically a half price deal that anyone else would get. For United, is it almost not? I know right now we need a left back, but if they didn't think he was ready, like surely letting him go somewhere, prove himself, grow as a player, kind of, you do it without the safety net of United, even though that safety net's still kind of there with the buyback clause. But really, you're out on your own now. You're not a Manchester United player anymore. Maybe that's what players sometimes need to sort of push on and get a bit better without. A loan is different, very different to moving to another club and having to prove yourself that way. I don't necessarily hate this, other than we need a left back right now. But if Luke Shaw and Malacia were fit, he'd be back to getting no minutes again. Surely him having a year or two at Benfica, becoming a top left back, or maybe a very good left back that can play in the Premier League, and then coming in 2 years' time for 20 million quid, that makes as much sense to me as keeping him. And then it would even be starting over Dalot, probably not. And Dallow's not, he might have had a couple of rotation minutes this season, but I think a lad of his age, what is he, 20 as well? He's not that young. He's not 16, 17. He's someone that actually needs to start having some minutes at the top level.
21 now.
21, exactly. So he's obviously a very young player, but he's not someone that's so young and so immature physically that he just needs a bit here and there. He needs proper minutes at a top team, and I think getting that at Benfica, to be honest, isn't a bad thing for United. And if we can get a really good right back, or a very good left back, out of it in a couple of years' time, then it was well worth it. It just feels a bit awkward now because we ain't got any fit left backs. But again, I think Dalot would still be starting left back if he was here.
Yeah, it was weird because we went through this stage of just getting rid of loads of left back options. Yeah. Like Reguilon went back. Brandon Williams was on loan, I think, at Ipswich, was it?
Yep.
Alvaro Fernandez went out on loan last season, this was.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we had an injury crisis, and you had no one at left back. And it was like, we'll just let 3 go.
Yeah.
But
wasn't there rumour that
the quality's the question?
Yeah, well, I think that they said the medical staff told Eric that Malacia and Shaw would be fit in time. So he's like, all right, well, we can get rid of Reguilon then. And they got injured instantly.
And Malacia's not touched a ball since, has he?
And that's the thing with Malacia, because Malacia's obviously had his injury problems, which isn't his fault, and he's been extremely unlucky. He's probably gone through quite a lot mentally as well over the past 12 months or so. But I thought even before then, when I watched Malacia play, and I thought he looked to me like Max as a backup type of quality. Yeah. I didn't think he was as good as people tried to make out him to be. I thought he was probably a solid backup, but I don't think he was someone that would come into a team starting week in week for United and change our lives, even the way that United are playing now. But it'd be nice to have a left-footed natural left-back playing.
Definitely.
But I think they must have thought someone like Alvaro Fernandez weren't as viable an option as keeping a Reguilon or having him ahead of Malacia. Or probably, as you said, they probably think Harry Amas has the better pathway to becoming a solidified left-back at United. But I don't know. I think when you're looking at players that have left United and are doing well, I think the simple reasoning could just be to play for Manchester United, you've got to be a pretty good player. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So when you go, they might not look good to you in terms of how they perform occasionally, but when you're like comparing it like comparatively to other teams that are lower down the league or other teams across Europe, I think to make first team appearances for Manchester United, you've got to be a good player no matter what. Yeah. But and I think that's why it's easy to say when they leave and go to lesser clubs with lesser expectations, lesser pressure, they can show that.
I think we also forget as fans
Yeah.
about the player side of things in terms of them needing that regular guarantee of minutes.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's a bit of a sense of entitlement that these young players should just accept being in a squad role. So, I understand why he felt the need to leave from his perspective and pick up those minutes early on.
Also, as well, you come from Real Madrid to United, so you've gone from one big club to another big club, and if you're not getting a look in there, you're going to be thinking, I'm not just going to go around waiting for my opportunity. If there's an opportunity there, let's not forget, Benfica
They're one of them. They're like top 10, 15 most historic clubs in Europe. I know they're not the top quality now, but they're a sensational club and have been for 100 years, not just 10 years. They're a big team.
Getting the opportunity to go and play for them regularly.
Massive team.
And also, he's only 21. Like this kid, if he does well there, there's already talk of Liverpool looking at him. Obviously, United have got the buyback clause lower than everyone else, which would be a bit of a touch if we decided to go there. So, whilst it is frustrating, and I get everyone's points, it's also people don't like to talk about luck and the freak nature of things as well, but the way that sort of just after January it's like everything's all right and then both of your left backs are out. Yeah, maybe there's an element.
And have both been out ever since.
Yeah,
as well. Like the
maybe there's an element of bad luck there,
or injuries, whatever it is terrible luck, because any straightforward ACL, broken leg, whatever, torn Achilles, the big heavy, even like sort of head injuries, these sorts of injuries that you see commonly, the big ones. Yeah, it's 9 to 14 months out in it. That's the prognosis for any of them. A straightforward injury, you're never out for more than just over a year or so. He's been out since whatever it was, 18 months nearly now. That's more than just a bit of bad, he's had a bad injury. That's like freakish injury. Yeah. So you can't necessarily expect United to know that he's going to have these multiple setbacks in a row, multiple surgeries over such an extended period of time. But it is terrible luck, and what makes you look a bit stupid in the end, because you get judged on the outcomes rather than the foreshadowing or the foresight that you could have had. But it still makes United look bad and makes us play worse as well, because we've got right footers playing left back and no left backs for the start of the season, which isn't ideal, is it? It's
not ideal. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I'll tell you what is ideal, Joseph.
What?
Yes. Do you want your grooming routine to be a one-time and done deal?
I mean, obviously, I don't want to have to go and this brand for that and this brand for that and make a little concoction in the sink to slather on everything.
No one wants to see that, do they? No. Do you know what I mean? It's dirty, it's not nice, and it doesn't do the job as well as it can be. Well, thankfully, our friends at Manscaped are going to look after you, because they can make it so you can do your beard and your balls at the same time.
Left hand, right hand.
Yeah, if you wanted to do that, you can, because they have got the beard and balls bundle. So with that, you get the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Yeah, we know what that is about. It's got the two titanium. Sorry, hang on a minute. Yeah.
Two interchangeable
heads. It's actually the beard hedger that's got the titanium coated steel blades, which we love, and it's got the 20 length options. And with Manscaped and Stretford Paddock, you get 20% off and free shipping. So you've got the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra for down there. You've got the beard hedger for up there with the 20 length options. So you can have a length like that, designer. You can have one like that, if you want, or you can have one like me and Finn, where it's like we give a toss and we look after ourselves. Exactly. You get all that, you get 20% off and free shipping, So you get the titanium coated stainless steel T-blade and 20 length options for the beard hedger. You get the Lawnmower Ultra 5.0, which is the leader in below the waist grooming. You get all that, free shipping as well. What more do you want? Use the code Paddock24, Paddock24 for the beard and balls bundle. 20% off and free shipping. Your balls and your beard will thank you. And a big thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this podcast. Can you just go to Joe's single? Just stay on that. There you go.
I don't think that's intentional.
So you can have a beard like that, or you go back to my single, or balls like that. Thank you. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this podcast.
Lovely.
Right, let's talk about other ones, because I do worry sometimes, that we get carried away as United fans.
No.
You know, like when a player leaves, and I've seen fans, I've stood next to or sat here or whatever, who've slagged off a player and absolutely hammered him. And then once he goes, he becomes the second coming of fucking Sir Bobby Charlton.
Do you know? And we've got.
Oh, do you know what I mean? It's like, I've always rated him. I thought, no, you haven't.
That's a lot of.
Do you know the two that spring to mind in recent years about that?
Go on.
People absolutely loved once they'd left. Chris Smalling, Daley Blind. People acted like they were obsessed with Daley Blind. No one understood it. It's cultured left foot. People were fuming with him when he gets skinned.
Really
was it Lukaku who chucked him on his arse a couple of times and just ran past him? And then he goes and all of a sudden, look at what he's doing at Ajax and all that. And you think, yeah, but when he's at United, he wasn't doing that. And he was good, and he had loads of attributes that were good, but then he had some big weaknesses that meant that he wasn't quite right for United. Chris Smalling the same. Physically, defensive-wise, he's good. In terms of his on-the-ball ability, he turns like a, whatever boat or whatever it is. Turns like a library. Yeah. And he's just like, not right for Man United. And then he goes to Roma and he's excellent. But it's not the same thing. And I just think that Scott McTominay is obviously the next one on the list. He's a perfect example of that. He was good enough to start. He got like 30 or 40 appearances every year for United, by the way. So he wasn't crap. There was never any doubt that he was a terrible player, but he didn't have the right set of skills to be successful at this Man United. And that's fine. And then he goes to Napoli and looks really good. And you've got Paolo Di Canio, who I don't want his opinion on anything, thank you, but certainly not whether United should have sold Scott McTominay to Napoli or not, coming out saying that, it was a terrible decision and we should sack whoever. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, there is an element of that. And McTominay's one, I know like a lot of people raved about him and he got some goals as well last season in particular, but there's a lot of people that criticised Scott McTominay and didn't think he was quite up to the job. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're bang on, Jay. I think there's so many fans out there that would have slandered these players and been very negative towards these players, but as soon as they've left and done all right, the very same ones will be like, we shouldn't have sold him. Yeah. I think you're better off just sticking to what you first thought.
Yeah.
But also just because you played quite well for Napoli in 5 games, no offence, Napoli, I know that they won the league 2 years ago, but the Italian league isn't as strong as the Premier League. It just isn't. Look at the number of Italian teams in Champions League finals over the last decade. What is it, Juve twice and that's it? Oh no, Inter did it a couple of years ago.
I reckon the people saying this as well have probably not watched one full 90.
No, they've seen an 18-second clip on Twitter and going, we shouldn't have sold him. It's not the same thing. And also, like, when you think of a buying club, Napoli wanted Scott McTominay. He wasn't just dropped out of a high-story window by Man United and they caught him and nursed him back to hell. They thought he's worth spending £25 million on this guy to come into our first team and play every week and be one of our better players, because they don't spend a lot of money really. And he's come in and been a good player for them, what they expected and what they wanted for the money they paid. Surely we can just be happy that he's playing elsewhere and doing well. Not like, we should never have sold him. Napoli have spent quite a decent chunk of money on someone that's come into their team and played well for him. That's what we all wanted to happen with this transfer, surely. Did people want him to leave and just fail? Can't get in the team, what do I do? Yeah. He's a good player and he's playing for Napoli, fine, that's what we wanted, innit?
Did they sign Billy Gilmore as well?
Yeah.
Scottish duo.
Bit too late. They could have signed him earlier, couldn't they?
I wonder if Brighton fans are doing the same thing. We shouldn't have sold Billy Gilmore.
Yeah.
I think people refuse to look at the environment and the context of things. They just say, he's performing here now, so why did we let go of him? It makes no sense. But it's a matter of environment, and like you said, the league he's playing in, there are so many factors that play into why someone might perform in a certain environment and not at Manchester United. And fans refuse to kind of acknowledge that when they're making their arguments about players.
Honestly, right, the amount of times you swear words or sentences to the effects of McFred is fucking shit.
Yeah.
Constantly, right? And as soon as they both leave, it's like the best players ever.
I still hear that now. We shouldn't have sold Fred.
Yeah, and I'm like, I hear it from people that were absolutely hammering him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We'll never get anywhere with Scott McTominay and Fred in our midfield, and now it's like we need McFred back in our midfield. I know, I suppose it's the nature of the beast somewhat, but come on, it's a little bit giddy.
It's the saviour theory that's rife in the fan base, where it's always a player that's either injured and not playing, or a player that we've sold that would have fixed all our issues, or that will fix all our issues.
Better when they're injured.
Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Just suddenly, as soon as a player is injured or not available, all of a sudden they go up in everyone's estimations, thinking as soon as they come back, we'll be better. Or it's someone that isn't available or isn't playing that's going to fix everything. It's like when Lenny Euro, he's on his way to coming back.
Yeah. There's already hearing people say that he's going to change everything. And he might improve how we look in the defence and playing out from the back, but he's not going to suddenly fix all the issues.
And again, just on McTominay, looking good for Napoli is no guarantee you would look good anywhere else.
No.
Look what's happened to Victor Osimhen in the last sort of 18 months. I know that's slightly different, but he's not been picked up by any of the top teams. Look what happened to Koulibaly. He was this £100 million sort of Goliath at Napoli. He goes to Chelsea and looks like a bang average defender. Like, I'm not saying because you play for Napoli you can't be great, but looking good in a Napoli side in Serie A is just a different thing to being a good Man United player in the Premier League.
Could say
Exactly.
well said about Alvaro Fernandez, because a lot of players that Benfica sell don't look as good
they
once
don't
they leave.
step up, yeah. And with McTominay, I think playing under Conte, I think Conte is McTominay as a manager, right?
Yeah.
He embodies a lot
I'd
of
love
those same qualities, right? I think it's possibly the best manager for his play style out there. So what we're seeing is McTominay in the perfect environment for him. So if he does perform, better than he did at United, there are reasons for that. There are supporting factors for why that change is happening.
And it's a small sample size still.
Yeah,
It is. What is it? 5 games?
5 or 6 games.
I love this comment from Adam. The whole team is shit. Let's be real. We finished 8th and win the bottom half. There you go. There's a cheery thought on a Monday afternoon. Matt G in the super chat says, "Do we have a habit of over even hyping our academy lads? Fans raved on Levitt, Tim Fosu, etc., and neither pulled up trees." A little bit. I think the problem with Fosu Mensah is when he came into the first team under Van Gaal, he looked unreal, didn't he? He did. He was fantastic. And then he gave away that penalty, I think, in the semi-final. And that was the end of his United career.
But everyone overhypes academy players because they're the most exciting thing in football. We have
a natural soft spot for him.
United, in particular, have a natural soft spot for them, obviously, with the history of the club. But you've got talent and potential are everyone's favourite thing. That's what football is all about. That's why people love transfers, because you've got infinite potential. With whoever you sign, this player could be the one that becomes Rooney or Ronaldo or Rio Ferdinand or whatever. Academy players are like the epitome of that. You've got a child, and this innocent, sort of recently formed child who could be the next fucking whatever, Bobby Charlton. And then you want to be excited by them. And of course, it's fine. It's exciting to see these young players come through and maybe become, whoever. So everyone does that. But on the other hand, look at someone like John O'Shea, who came at United at the time that he did, played, 400 games for Man United?
Something like that.
If John O'Shea was planted into this Man United side now, there would be people, and many people, saying this player isn't good enough, he has to be sold immediately. He might play 50 times for United in this environment. It's a lot easier to bring someone into a Fergie team or, one of Fergie's sides than it is this one. Like, you have to be really good to not look shit in this team at the minute, the way that they're playing and the confidence and all that. Exactly, it's the environment that they're coming through at. So maybe people overestimate players and get overhyped, which is fair enough, but also, who would want to come through? Like Kobbie Mainoo, for instance, who's looked brilliant and maybe hasn't quite been at his best so far this season, but still hasn't been bad by any means. Imagine him coming in next to Scholes and Keane and having that as your sort of initiation. Imagine that. Yes. He could be one of the best midfielders England's ever produced under those environments. And you look at him now at United, and he still could go on to be that. But also, he could maybe, fall by the wayside in a couple of years because you're playing in this toxic, horrible football club that just isn't a good place for anyone to look any good.
That's why his performance is probably. I know we've hyped him quite a lot, and I think it's warranted. Because it's warranted for someone as young as him to come into United's team, with it being so dysfunctional, being the environment being what it is, and then putting in the performances that he has put in. I think it's scary, the prospect of what he could be in a better United team that's more stable, that plays even more to his strengths. I
think the problem is for United fans, it's whoever is the latest academy product to get minutes or to be in the setup. They're world class. They've got world class potential. They're going to go on to be something special, and that's not always the case. So, luckily enough, in Mainoo's case, he'd shown for 2 or 3 years in the under-18s that he was head and shoulders above the rest, head and shoulders above his peers. I always go back to Zidane Iqbal and Charlie Savage because they had a lot of hype at the time, and a lot of, especially Iqbal, people are saying, he's nailed on. He needs more minutes. He's going to be a top midfielder. And I think a lot of people who will actually actively watch the academy at the time were saying maybe cool down the excitement a little bit, because throughout the majority of his academy career he was he wasn't a starter for the under-18s or the under-21s. There was always a midfielder ahead of him at pretty much every age group, and he had those nice technical attributes, but I don't think many who had watched him for the last 2 years before that kind of pre-season breakthrough would have predicted him to go on and be a first-team player. So I think it's important to look back at that kind of larger sample size of them playing. Otherwise, it's easy to look at 1 or 2 pre-season performances and just say, oh, well, they're going to go on to be the best. I remember that summer I spent the majority of my time arguing with people about whether Kobbie Mainoo or Zidane Iqbal was going to go on to have that first-team career. I think so. I think as United fans, we do overhype, academy players, but it's
it happened to Garnacho, isn't it? Because everyone's like he's going to be Real Madrid are going to be knocking on the door in a few years, and it's like
he still could push on to be an incredible player, but we are very quick to put those labels on players, and I think sometimes we'd benefit from just taking things slow when it comes to evaluating those players. We need something to be happy about.
I was guilty with Zidane on that pre-season tour. And we spent a bit of time with him as well. And he's a top, dead level-headed lad.
Lovely lad.
It's easy to buy into it because watching him against Liverpool and Villa, I think it was at Palace.
Yeah.
I know it's not their first team, but Premier League level teams. Him and Charlie Savage absolutely smashing it, and you think, okay. And I remember looking at it as the sort of season went on. And Mainoo was in the squad and they weren't in the first team squad. And you're going, what's going on here? But there's obviously, like you said, there's a reason for that. And the manager knows that Mainoo has got a very good chance of getting into this first team eventually. Zidane Iqbal and Charlie Savage probably not quite at that level. And the trouble you got with a lot of these youngsters, I think, pre-season, you see them and they can look all right and they can look like they can hold their own. And this has been going back decades, ever since I've been watching United. You think, okay, get excited, and then when it comes to actual Premier League level, it's night and day.
I remember last season, because I remember last season on tour, watching us against Wrexham.
Oh yes.
And like Hannibal Medjugorje's performance in that, he's playing against. Are they League One now or League?
Yeah,
Wrexham?
I think Wrexham League One.
Yeah, he looked head and shoulders above everyone else that was playing, including the Wrexham players. And then Hannibal's, when he plays for United, you don't see anything like that.
Hannibal's a really weird one for me because
he was rated higher than Zidane Iqbal, I'm pretty sure.
Really highly, yes. He came from Monaco.
Didn't we spend like 10 million?
10 million at 16. So he came from Monaco as someone who was, one of the most highly regarded players in his age group. And he's weird because I've never seen a player just completely change their play style during those developmental years, and it feels like with Hannibal that almost happened because he used to be really kind of silky, technical attacking player. He could play anywhere across the front line, and he had so much quality in his passing and his dribbling and stuff. And I'm sure he still has that, but it feels like watching him now, you never see that. He's almost been reduced down to just that kind of robust kind of player who just wants a scrap. And he's always getting yellows and getting sent off and stuff. And it's a weird one with him because I think that ability is probably still there to be realised. But we just never saw it in his latter years.
It's weird that.
It is a shame because I really liked Hannibal when we first started watching him. Some other players you can mention here that have sort of had games as well for the first team where you go, crikey, this is someone who's going to be absolutely amazing. Axel Tuanzebe. A few people have mentioned him in the chat. I mean, we'll always have Paris, won't we? He was, phenomenal.
What a game.
Yeah, against Kylian Mbappe.
He was genuinely amazing.
He was. He looked like the greatest defender ever.
It's mad.
Then it was like when we played, was it Istanbul? And then Babar made him look like he'd never played football before. It was bizarre. Obviously got to Ipswich now, so he's having a decent. I don't think with Tuanzebe there's anyone who thought we should have kept hold of him.
No.
I don't think there is. I think he's a perfect example of someone who's arguably good enough for the Premier League, not good enough for United. Because there is still a difference.
I think that's
people are like, we're that bad that if you're good enough for the Premier League, good enough for United. Well, you're not. Do you know what I mean? No disrespect to Ipswich, but there's a difference between playing for Ipswich Town and playing for Manchester United.
Yeah, when's the last time they finished 8th?
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Actually, I'm taking this, but genuinely, what is it, 30 years ago? So it's easier said than done.
They managed it. They managed it under George Burley for one season, but then they got relegated the next season. Do you know what I mean?
You haven't finished your 9th, don't you?
But Ipswich, listen, you've given up So early on, Kieran McKenna's Barmy Army, they'll come good. Cavalier charge second half of the season, led by Axel Tuanzebe. Another player who played fewer games for United than Tuanzebe. With Tuanzebe, what I had as well, he got injured at never a right time to get injured, but he got injured at bad times for his because he had that loan at Villa, didn't he? Then he came back to United. And he
Villa,
looked like he
when he after that loan at Villa, people thought he was going to go on to be amazing.
This was it. We thought he was at 21 at the time. He's come back to United, and then he got injured, and then the rest is history.
Yeah.
Willie Kambwala was a funny one, wasn't it? Because he had that good game was against Liverpool, and everyone thought, oh, and then he had a bit of a stinker against
Bournemouth away.
Yes,
Dominic Solanke made him look like he.
And it was like that's a good example of how people can get overhyped about someone and then throw them under a bus straight away. Because one week you had Willie Kambwala as the best young defender in the world, and then a week later he's like, get rid of him.
He went from pocketing like Darwin Núñez to next week. Dominic Solanke made him look like he. Yeah,
it wasn't
like
great.
He's never played
difficult
football
as a defender as well when you're breaking through, because being error prone, you've got no one behind you to pick up, after your mistakes. So it's different to a winger breaking through.
Yeah, it's true.
That is shown by the fact that, other than Wes Brown, how many centre-backs have United had come through the academy and actually keep their spot? And you could argue, and this is no offence to Wes Brown, he was never a first-choice starting centre-back when everyone was fit. Like, he played a lot of games for United over the years at right-back and at centre-back, but there was always two centre-backs ahead of him. United in their history, certainly modern history, have had very, very few centre-backs come through and be top players. It's really hard. Same with goalkeepers, because if you make a mistake, you're out. Yeah. Especially if you're coming through at a top team. Like, I know United aren't a top team, but we are. Like we said, we play in the Europa League, we win trophies. Like, it's really hard to be in those areas where if you get it wrong, you've lost. Whereas if you're a striker and you miss a big chance, you're not guaranteed to you lose or whatever. You can sort of get away with it. If you're a keeper and you make a mistake, you're out, and then you've been replaced and you've gone somewhere else. Look at there's a handful of examples of goalies in particular. So it is really hard for centre backs. But Kambwala, I feel like we got 10 million for him and thought double digits. We just got to take it because it's not. It's a decent fee for someone who hasn't really played for United much, but I think they've also got a massive sell-on fee and a buyback option for the first 3 years as well. So he's someone again that is very much within the United kind of framework still, but it was a bit quick selling him. What do you think, Jay?
It kind of made sense to me.
Yeah.
And also, you mentioned it earlier, Finn, like, what about the player themselves? What are they thinking? He's had a taste of first team football. What would he be now? Our sixth choice centre-back? If we'd have indeed signed all the centre-backs we did. But I still feel if we'd have kept him, we'd have still wanted Lenny Yoro and Mateus de Ligt. I don't think we'd have gone, well, we're not going to get Lenny Yoro because we've got Willie Kambwala. Or we're not going to get Mateus de Ligt because we've got him. So he's probably still would be like way down the pecking order. Yeah. And then you're thinking, well, actually, am I going to get any minutes? Then you're probably looking to loan him to sort of not let him stagnate, which is just, it's completely counterproductive. Do you know what I mean? It's
I think under Ineos we'll see
what's the point?
Buyback clauses almost be used as a kind of loan mechanism. And it's going to happen a lot with the wealth of talent that's in the academy now. Kambwala isn't going to be the last case of that, and Alvaro Fernandez isn't going to be the last case of that, where fans feel like, oh, should we have let him go? That will happen. That will continue to happen as a kind of inevitability of having really, really strong young players coming through regularly, because at the end of the day, not all of them are going to make it, and you can't play them all.
The other thing with United as well is because we've got such a terrible reputation for selling players in terms of the fees that we get. It's almost like we accept that this guy who maybe should be more like 20-25 million, we're probably going to get 15 if we're lucky. We accept that. So instead of trying to overturn the tide in one summer, what we'll do is we'll sell him for 15, which is underselling him, but because of that we want 30% if you sell him, or and eventually once we start rebuilding, like McTominay's only one of two signings in the last two sales in the last 15 years that we've sold for 20 million or more, like Dan James, him, and then it's Beckham. Like, that's absurd. So whilst we rebuild this ability to sell players, having buyback clauses and sell-on fees helps sort of mitigate some of the lost earnings that we should have had from getting genuine.
How much was Jadon Sancho?
Well, it's not happened yet, has it? I don't know. No one knows either. I don't think.
Is it an obligation? On that front, though?
Not sure.
I'm not. I think it is.
I think it is.
25 million.
It's not a lot.
Something like that.
You're getting a loss. We know that. Miles says, have we mentioned Elanga? Happy to see him doing well. We haven't, and we're going to get into Anthony Elanga because talking about sort of sell-on fees and all that, Newcastle came in with a pretty hefty bid, didn't they, for Anthony Elanga
50
in the
million.
summer? 50 million, which kind of surprised a lot of people because whilst I thought he's done okay at Forest. I didn't think he'd done enough to make himself.
He didn't start every week.
That was weird for Newcastle because
Yeah.
I think he is more or less a starter.
Yeah,
but Newcastle having to sell was it Yaku Minter to Brighton, and then in the same window go and spend 50 million on Anthony Elanga. I thought there'd been a strange bit of business. I know there was a lot of PSR and FFP around that, but I think Minter's probably the better player with the higher upside as well.
I think right now you'd be fair to say that maybe what clubs are looking at with Elanga is just his physical profile, because he's quite an athletic freak in his pace, just athletic qualities, his leap, and I think he's got really intelligent off-ball movement, and I think he's got some of the attributes that could combine to make a really top-level player, and I think that's what clubs are looking at. So definitely for Newcastle would be a long-term signing, but I do 50 million now maybe seems like a bit much, but I do kind of understand the thought process there with him, because I do think he's one of those maybe late bloomers who goes on to, like a Salah, for example. I'm not saying he's going to become Mo Salah, but
getting clipped up there.
But
Andy Elanga is better than Mo Salah, is what you're saying.
Mo Salah has ever
Fair
been.
enough, I agree.
But it's that combination of traits that you could have seen in Mo Salah 5 years before he became the player he did. That mean that clubs kind of are willing to take a gamble on that skill set.
And also Newcastle got very desperate toward the end of that window, didn't they?
Yeah.
They wanted
I think
Mark Gay, and that was it.
And they thought they were losing Anthony Gordon, I think.
Yeah, it's a funny one with Elanga, because just looking, this season isn't a great sample size, but he's got 1 assist this season, a big assist though at Anfield, so give him credit there.
And that's the one where he's passed it to Hudson-Odoi, and Hudson-Odoi's dribbled himself. And then
one of those ones, you do them ones, and you go to the guy that scored, you go, you couldn't miss with that pass, could you, son? Them ones.
He's already beat someone and bent it in the
I
bottom
saw them at 5 or 7.
Put it on a plate.
He does. He starts most games, but it does feel like he's a little bit used in and out of the team. But again, that doesn't mean much. He's only 22, so let's not forget the thing with Elanga is I always feel a bit sorry for him, because I don't think a player could have been handled much worse than he was at United. He was played when he shouldn't have been played. He was sort of the expectation on him was just piled on. It's like at one point he was getting in the team ahead of Marcus Rashford, which I know it's easy to take on Marcus Rashford, but seemed like a bit of a nonsense to me.
I remember Ragnick was doing that at that point because Rashford's form was that bad, and I think Elanga was actually playing better than him at that point.
But
and also
he dropped off massively.
It was also it was a work rate thing
for
that was getting him in the team.
12 games where he was terrible,
but Elanga worked hard.
Picked, and I just thought it wasn't fair on him. He was 20 years old, getting hammered.
I remember that.
Playing well during.
I remember that time. He was playing better than
Atletico Madrid. Some of the sitters he missed. He didn't score again for
he wasn't playing
18
that well.
games, and it was like
he was playing better than Rashford at that time. That's why he was getting
appreciated.
His work rate and stuff.
His work rate.
But I just think it helped to sort of ruin him. And also he was getting stick because he did fall off a lot. Like his performances, especially in front of goals.
It definitely hurt his reputation, him being played that.
Do you know what I mean? I get the whole work rate thing, and there was rumours that Cristiano Ronaldo preferred playing alongside him and all that sort of stuff, and I understand all that. But I don't think that's the best way to handle a 20-year-old player who's obviously struggling for form himself. Is just keep throwing him in, especially when he's getting stick.
Was he not struggling after that though? Was he the reason he got those run of games was because he was playing well?
No, but then when he fell off for about 15. It might have been harsh on 8, but there was a good chunk of games where you could see the kid's confidence was struggling.
That's
you could see it.
But the fact that Ragnick was still playing him, that's an indictment of Rashford.
There was a time when he tackled Marcus Rashford when he's through on goal at Leicester. Come on, man. That's It was getting farcical. And this is a kid who's still learning his craft, and you're just going, nah, we'll just keep throwing him in.
Yeah, and they played him out of position.
Played him out of position as well.
He's not a right winger.
Do you know what I mean?
He was never a right winger.
I personally think that is not how you should handle a young player. And I think he's done well to get his career back on track, because it was at times I felt sorry for him. I did. He looked a bit gutted. Do you know what I mean? When things weren't going right for him, and you think if you've got a bit more experience, you can shrug it off. But I think he was holding on to it a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you could see on the pitch he didn't look full of confidence.
Speaking of getting the career back on track, can we talk about Angel Gomes?
Yeah, 100%.
Because he's another massive talking point this season. Obviously, went to Lille after leaving United on a free, has been a very good player for them, starting week in, week out, has changed again, almost like Hannibal Medbury, has changed what he is as a player completely. He went from being a sort of winger / maybe slightly lightweight number 10 to all of a sudden he's kind of this deep lying number 8, or this kind of deep line player who picks the ball up off the defence and brings it out for England's younger teams, and then now obviously the first team as well. I think his contract runs out at the end of this season, doesn't it?
He could go on a free next summer.
He could go on a free next summer. United do have a buyback clause on him. I say buy. Well, we didn't sell him, but a buyback clause on him. But obviously that wouldn't matter if this summer ended, if you know what I mean, this season ended, because he's a free for everyone. But I think that I saw some.
Was it a first refusal?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say I saw some things on there about it. The United still having an advantage in the summer anyway, which I don't quite get, because if he's not contracted to anyone, what have we got a first refusal on? I don't quite know, but that's what I saw reported. Maybe in January, obviously you can start negotiating then with teams, but he's someone that probably in terms of their current value would be higher maybe than any of the people we've mentioned so far. He's a very good up and coming midfielder in Europe, who is now a different player to the one we let go. That's the weird thing for me. Did you see him much at academy level? Were you
just
watching?
a little bit
older,
time,
isn't it?
to be honest.
Yeah.
But I've always loved that style of player.
Yeah.
And I really like what he's become. Especially playing for Lee Carsley's under 21s.
Yeah.
And I think he's almost like the modern day Verratti now. Not that Verratti isn't modern day, but I think he's someone that could come in and for me be the perfect Eriksen replacement. It just boils down to whether he can accept not being a nailed on starter, because he wouldn't be suited to every game. I don't think you could play him against an Arsenal where everyone's 6'7".
I said that to Jay earlier. I was like,
we were talking about this.
yeah, I don't think I could see Angel Gomes coming back or it being a viable option with the way this current United team play. I think if Ten Hag's here for definite next season, there's no way Angel Gomes is a midfielder suited to him. With the amount of space that he asks his midfielders to cover, with the amount of responsibility he bears on him.
Erik Ten Hag loves playing Eriksen, who also isn't someone who can eat up that ground. And I just think against a team who's in a low block, you need a solution, you need a problem solver. I think he kind of fits that description quite well. But I do understand what you're saying, that under Erik Ten Hag it might not be the best fit.
Yeah, he's not really like an athlete, is he?
And Eriksen's got more passing range probably.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you're
and
right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's good to see Angel doing well for England. It's good to see him doing well for Lille as well. And he was a player. I think me, Steve, and Macca and Gaz Drinkwater did a preview years ago. And we were all talking about these young players, and I think me and Steve were going on about Angel Gomes and how good he was and how enjoyable he was to watch on the ball, and had all his attributes, and he sort of dropped a little bit deeper, I think, than he was at the academy at the time. But there was always this question about, like you saying, on his physicality. I know you can get away with it, especially in the modern era, but is he the answer to United's problems?
Depends on who you're playing.
And exactly, I'm not so sure.
I think United are in desperate need for size, physicality, pace and power.
Legs.
I know legs. The team's struggling. Every team we play looks stronger, bigger, faster, more imposing, more aggressive, and I think we need to actually kind of cater our recruitment a little bit towards that. I'm not saying just be getting complete athletes with no ability at all, but I think we've gone too far the other way, because our team just looks so lightweight whenever we play anyone. And I think the way the Premier League is now, I think it values physicality more. That's why, as you said, that's why someone like Anthony Elanga will always have a lot of value in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Because of his athletic traits. He probably would have went to Newcastle and done well. I think he probably suits the way they play.
Absolutely.
The heavy metal type of football.
I think he could be, similarly effective to Anthony Gordon, to be honest.
They play Murphy sometimes. He's playing Murphy quite a lot.
You love Murphy, don't you?
Elanga's better than
Is he class Murphy? Hey.
Alanga's better than
Murphy, though.
Do you know what I mean? Yes.
I honestly, this won't be popular, but I think Elanga has a lot over Garnacho. I honestly don't think there's a clear better player out of the two there. Yeah. Especially,
he was a fan of Elanga. But because he was another one that people did think when he was breaking through that had serious potential of being someone that could do really well as a winger. Probably not on the right, but also he can play up front a bit as well. Yeah,
exactly. He can play through the middle. But yeah, he was never a right winger consistently, at least during the academy days. So I think it's a little bit unfair to judge him on the games where he is playing on the right. I think a Newcastle move would have suited him, to be honest.
It seems like a fair trajectory, that as well, doesn't it? Going from Forest, doing quite well there, getting a move to Newcastle is obviously a big club.
At the end of the day, I just hope the best for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
same with any academy.
Like I said, I do feel a little bit sorry for him, but he's doing very well. He's only 22. Do you know what I mean? Let's not forget, he's got a lot of football ahead of him.
I know there's someone we haven't mentioned on here, because he obviously just got his international call up for Poland. I saw a lot of people doing a bit of revisionism saying that they shouldn't have sold him. Some people think that we should have kept him and not signed Ugarte. Is it Oyedele?
Yeah.
What's your actual opinion on him? Because I've never watched him play. I only saw bits and pieces of him pre-season. We've sold him.
Yeah.
He's just got his first team international call up to Poland. So everyone's going like, some people that were fans of him said we should have kept him and he could have done a job for us in midfield with our current state of affairs. What do you think about that?
I disagree, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he's got some desirable attributes. He's quite technical for someone that has those physical attributes and those defensive attributes. But he could be quite hit and miss. And I think there are, usually when he was playing alongside a Toby Collier or even a Jace Fitzgerald, he kind of lacked that quality sometimes and that consistent ability to have really, had a chance to step up. And I'm so glad that he's performing well in Poland because, again, he's a good kid and, I'm always going to wish the best for academy products. But I disagree. I think it's very easy to say, why didn't we throw him in? But it's not always realistic.
No.
The coaching staff, while they're not always right, they are seeing these players week in, week out, and they do have a pretty good sense of who is ready to make that step up. And for all Erik ten Hag's criticisms, I do think that's a strength of his, spotting which players are capable of making the step up and knowing when they're ready. I think, that was well planned in Kobbie Mainoo's case.
Apart from Amari Forson, I'm not letting that one go.
Wow, what's wrong?
He had a proper affinity for Amari Forson.
Did you?
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say.
I thought you meant. I thought you were going down the route. We shouldn't let him go.
Yeah,
I was thinking we'll always have that assist at Wolves.
He loved Forson.
When he was getting his minutes, I was told that he liked Amari Forson more than Ahmad.
Yeah.
Was it him that was getting told off when he was in Vegas?
Yeah, I was against Dortmund.
He got took off early doors, didn't he?
He was right there
when he was giving him a right roller.
It wasn't just him. Delo was fuming at him.
Yeah.
All first half. Delo was like,
didn't he? Like, was it first half? And then we were like, he was stood there and he gave him like a proper 5-minute
chat.
But it wasn't just that. Like during the game, because Delo was literally basically saying, "What are you doing?" and he was angry at him the whole first half. Do you know what I mean? But Delo was never that demonstrative at all. But he was. Amari Forson was pissing him off in front of it.
Yeah, he was.
Do you know what I mean?
Go on, we'll whiz through a couple more.
Well, can we change the subject a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course it is.
Because we ain't got that much time, and I want to chat to Finn about something that me and Ronaldo have been talking about this week.
Okay.
Talk to me about Godwill Kukonki.
Okay.
What the fuck is going on there? Because for people who don't know, he's a 16-year-old, 6'5" centre back who is just one of the most ridiculous physical specimens I've ever seen.
At his age,
Google him at his age. He's just got like naturally big, heavy arms, heavy chest,
that's the most surprising
legs.
thing is you sometimes get those players who are that tall at that age.
Yeah.
But to have already kind of filled out his physique is a bit weird.
It is a bit weird. So
is he actually 6'5", or is that exaggerated?
Yeah, I think he is.
What's the story with him then? Where's he come from? Like
he's been at the club since he was 5.
So he's been at the club since he was 5, and he's just come in. He's 16 years old. He's just started playing though, hasn't he? In the under 18s, is it?
He had a few cameos off the bench towards the end of last season for the under 18s, but he started pretty much every game for the 18s this season. He made his under 21 debut against Forest Green Rovers last week.
Because I saw you did a tweet about him over a year ago.
Yeah.
I think when he was 15.
Yeah, he played in. I think he played in Hong Kong because the under 16s go on a Hong Kong tour, and he looked pretty impressive there. He's just, to be honest, a physical freak. To be honest.
Yeah. So what?
I know you're a big fan. I know Finn's a big fan of Brantwaite as well.
Yeah,
I've seen that. So
I think there are similarities.
Do you think there's a similarity in terms of size? And I've always said this. Do you think left-footed centre halves are like desired a little bit more 100%. As well?
They're gold dust. Yeah, I've spoken to a few people, kind of within the industry, who say that a lot of clubs are jealous that United have produced not only him but his teammate Daniel Armour, who I think should not go ignored because he's 6'4" at 16 and.
What's going on? What are they feeding him?
They've both been at the club since they were 5, so they've played together in every age group. I think obviously a lot of the talk is about Kukonki right now, which is absolutely deserved because he looks like really exciting and he does have that physical development that maybe Armour doesn't.
Sorry, just to jump in terms of, obviously, look at picture him, obviously Google him at home, immediately you see just what kind of physicality he's got for his age. Is there any pace with that? Is there technicality with that? Does he read the game well? What's he like as a player outside of this obvious kind of physical advantage that he's got?
Yeah, so I think he definitely he's an intelligent defender. He knows how to read the game, and he positions himself quite well. And he's got that positional versatility because he's actually played a lot of his games at left back while coming through the academy, which at his size is just like almost unheard of. Obviously, you've got a few outliers, but he's definitely not just his physical frame. Okay. He's especially recently shown some really good passing ability. He likes to carry the ball quite aggressively. Definitely more of an aggressor, which is interesting for his kind of pace because he is very fast. Yeah. Sometimes at under 18 level, the pitches feel quite small because it's quite an erratic game. So it's rare that you see them, at full sprint. So I think I'd need to see him in the first team to really gauge how fast he is, but he definitely doesn't look slow.
Yeah, because it is different. Because what I was going to say is, you covering the academy and then people in the academy industry, sometimes you do see players with traits and abilities, but how these people that work in this kind of make their money is working out what abilities and traits are like actually translatable to first team football, because there's no way of knowing. I think it's clear that they're going to try and fast track him based on those physical qualities. Not just the physical qualities, but what he can bring on the ball and defensively and stuff.
Has he always been big and sort of muscular, or is that obviously when he was 5 when he joined he wasn't? But he's not like shot up in the last 12 months, or has he always been big for his age group?
Yeah, I think.
I know you might not have seen
he's probably. I think he's probably had a bit of a growth spurt in the last 2 years, but I think he's always been big for his age.
He's surely done now, isn't he? I know he's 16.
I don't know, the 16.
16, I can still grow, can't you?
You can.
You could put another few inches on,
McTominay was, 5'8", 5'9" at 18.
Does he want to stop though? You
don't want to be a 6'9" centre back. There's an upper limit here of 6'6", 6'7". You start getting into that, like, his feet are just too far from his eyes, and he can't do it.
I think that
you get to that point where you're like, what?
I think he's all right.
6'5" is getting to that upper limit. And what's amazing is how he uses his body, because you do sometimes get players that size who feel like they've outgrown their body and like you said, too far from their feet. They don't turn well, they don't move well, but I think he really does. He can turn with quite a lot of agility, and he doesn't look like he's stiff or kind of
lumbering.
So I'm really excited to see his development.
That's why everyone's excited because of the fast tracking potential of him. People think he might be in and around the first team.
I want to get into some of the comments, but before I do, or while I do, think of you Wally of the weeks. Yeah, exactly. Benonka says, love listening to Finn. The guy is quality. Well said. Sanali says, WTF, 6'5" and 6'4", 16-year-olds. What is the academy feeding these kids? Domination Gaming says, I was 6'5" at 13 and now I'm 6'4" at 46. Happens to the best of us.
I was going to say, you can't stop at 60. You kind of reached it.
Yeah.
Wally of the week time, gentlemen.
Interesting. I'm looking now to see if there's anything.
I was wondering what you were doing.
Can I just say Arsenal fans?
Yeah, of course you can. That's always a good one to go for.
Because the reason why is because I always just don't like them anyway.
Right, but you got a specific reason based on
the reason
recently.
I saw fans saying that David Raya is the best keeper in the Premier League, and then I saw one that said Timber is the most versatile. So I kind of collated everything that Arsenal fans have said about their starting 11, and I started to. It didn't really match up with what they've actually won. You know what I mean? So I've heard that David Raya is the best keeper in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I've heard obviously David Saliba is the best centre back in the world, and his partnership with Gabriel is the best partnership in the world.
Saka's the best right winger.
Saka's the best right winger in the world. Yeah. Timber's the best and the most versatile defender in the world. Declan Rice is the best number 6 in the world.
Yeah.
Odegaard's the best 10 in the Premier League, and Havertz is the most complete 9, as they're saying it, in the Premier League.
What does complete 9 mean? That you complete shit at scoring goals?
So nice. So with all that, and then they obviously say Arteta is a generational manager, and to be fair, I think he's a good manager. But if with that in its entirety, from what I've heard from Arsenal fans, why haven't they won anything? Or why are they always like what? So
if all of that's true,
if all that's true, they should win everything.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that's letting them down in that case is the fans, isn't it? because everything on the pitch and on the dugout's fine. The only thing left in the stadium that's
the
clearly
fans aren't
shit
doing their job.
is the fans.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's your fault you're not winning now.
So you're saying Arsenal fans?
I'm going to agree with Ronny.
You're going to agree with right. You're saying Arsenal fans.
Down on that.
Finn, who are you going for?
Agree.
You're going for Arsenal fans?
Yeah, all right.
Really? Loads of people in the comments.
International break, Jay. What do you want us to say?
All right, fair enough.
What's yours?
Happy birthday to Santa Notch, by the way. I think it's the big 4-0, isn't it, for Notchster?
Lovely.
For my Wally of the week, do you know what? I'm just going to go with the entire everything around the England football team. It all does my head in.
Yeah.
Like, now Trent Alexander-Arnold is the best footballer you've ever seen because he's had a couple of good games. Lee Carsley's outraged everyone by saying he's not sure if he wants the England job, even though no one wants him to have it anyway. It's just nonsense. It's just utter nonsense. If anyone has even 10 good minutes in a midfield role, it's like, oh, Kobe Mainu, who, and all this drivel. Yeah. Just shut up.
That's so boring,
just everything about it. Just shut up. The other week, didn't they get beat off Greece the other day? And it was like, sack Carsley, sack all the players, are all shit. And then we beat Finland, and it's like, oh, we're going to win the World Cup. Just fuck off. That's my Wally of the week. Just England.
You're right.
You know, I'm like the opposite of Nigel Farage. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you go and check out Finn Academy Scoop all over your socials. You know where to find him. He's going to be back on Monday with an Academy review as well. Bit different today because there's not been any many games to talk about, so I thought we'd get you on the Paddock Podcast. You're going to be joining us for more podcasts as well, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Not just the Academy review. Yeah, 100%. You're in it now, mate. Can't get out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Locked in.
You're in this. Go and check out Ronny as well. You know where to find him. Joe Smith, go and check him out on the Sloppy Joe's podcast. Big thank you to Manscaped as well for sponsoring this podcast. Go and check out the link in the description. Use the code Paddock24 for 20% off and free shipping. That's been Finn, that's been Ronny, that's been Joe, I've been Jay. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Thanks for watching.